Hi guys, it's me, Jack Varnell with the Social Yet Distance podcast. And I felt obligated to got to say something about what's going on. I woke up this morning, we are at war for no apparent reason other than Israel wants us to be. So I'll say my commentary because that set me to thinking, where is it that I've learned the most that I've possibly learned about nonviolent protest, resistance? And I grew up in Atlanta. I grew up during the civil rights times. I remember riots. I remember MLK. I remember the murders of Bobby and MLK. I remember riots in the local parks. I remember lots of things about the history that we have tried to escape from. I remember watching the astronauts land on the moon. I remember all kind of news items, those kind of things that you remember as where were you when you thought or when this happened. And in thinking about all that, I've been kind of somewhat in a malaise for quite some time, somewhat perplexed, I guess, because it feels like everything that was touted as progress during my lifetime and my training and education and the things I learned about business and living on the streets and everything that has been known as progress seems to be crumbling one little small piece at a time. And I'm reverting quickly back to a time that I remember from my childhood when things weren't so nice, and even relations with family members who were much older than myself, who have lots of stories to tell about rural North Carolina and the Deep South. So I have to think that what I learned from those years was peace was the answer. It always was, and when there was war involved, it was lies, politics, promotion, and endlessly the greed of those involved who never have to send their kids, who never have to go to war, who never have to be a POW, who never have to see the burning flesh of the children that they just bombed, So I'll let that speak for itself in the world of war. I don't want to know anything about that. I don't want it to exist. So, thinking about that and the obvious influences like letters from a Birmingham jail and my historical past, I ran across a gentleman several years ago by the name of Gene Sharp. And Gene wrote a pamphlet or a book called 198 Methods of Nonviolent Action. And it's fully available online. I'll include a link where you can go and get it from me directly. And the document itself is grouped into three main categories: nonviolent protest and persuasion, non-cooperation, which includes social, economic, and political movements, and then nonviolent intervention. We're not going to go through each one of these in detail. I would encourage you to read the full document, but let me just give you some examples here, and then I will read all 198 for us so you guys can follow along and go and research the documents yourself and choose how you want to get involved. Under nonviolent protest and persuasion, we include things like public speeches, letters of opposition or support, declarations by organizations and institutions, group petitions, slogans, banners, symbols, picketing, vigils, marches, parades, processions, mock funerals, protest meetings, teach-ins. Lots of the things that I'm seeing on the streets these days fall into the line of these categories. There's the idea, number two, of non-cooperation, social non-cooperation like social boycotts, student strikes, withdrawal from social institutions. Economic non-cooperation, like consumer boycotts, strikes, refusal to pay fees or taxes. Political non-cooperation, which is boycotting the elections, refusal of public work, withdrawal from government institutions. Under the third category of nonviolent intervention, we include sit-ins, stand-ins, ride-ins, nonviolent occupation, establishing alternative socials or economic institutions, overloading administrative systems, seeking imprisonment, civil disobedience of neutral laws, and dual sovereignty and parallel government. You can get all 198 methods in the full document itself, and I'll include several links where you can get that, including from me. And I'm going to take a break here, and then we'll come back and read all 198. Okay, guys, this is 198 Methods of Nonviolent Action. This particular edition comes from the Albert Einstein Institution, and there's many others, and I'm going to include a link to this version as well so that you can go and directly download it from me. I would ask that you go ahead and sign up for the Social Yet Distance Cafe, which is where that document is housed. So take a look around, join the club, and feel free to download and follow along with us. So let's get into it. Albert Einstein Institution, 198 Methods of Nonviolent Action. We're looking at Nonviolent Protest and Persuasion. First section is formal document, formal statements. Public speeches, letters of opposition, declarations by organizations and institutions, signed public statements, declarations of indictment and intention, group or mass petitions. Moving on. Communications with a wider audience. Number 7. Slogans, caricatures, and symbols, banners, protests, displayed communications, leaflets, pamphlets, and books, newspapers and journals, records, radio, television, skywriting, and earth writing. And as a writer, I'd be remiss to not include writing, poetry, and any kind of art is going to make a difference. Next section, group representations. There's deputations, mock awards, group lobbying, picketing, and mock elections. Symbolic public acts, displays of flags and symbolic colors, wearing of symbols, prayer and worship, delivering symbolic objects, protests, disrobings, destruction of their own property, symbolic lights, displays of portraits, paint as protest, new signs and names, symbolic sounds, symbolic reclamations, rude gestures, pressures on individuals, taunting officials, fraternization and vigils, drama and music, humorous skits and pranks, performances of plays, music, poetry, singing, processions. Number 38. Marches, parades, religious processions, pilgrimages, motorcades, honoring the dead, political mourning, mock funerals, demonstrative funerals, homage at burial places, public assemblies, assemblies of protest or support, protest meetings, camouflage meetings of protest, teach-ins, withdrawal and renunciation with walkouts, silence, renouncing honors, and turning one's back. That's number 54. Ostracism of persons. 55. Social boycott, selective social boycott, listriatic non-action, excommunication, interdict, non-cooperation with social events, customs, and institutions. Number 60. Suspension of social and sports activities. 61. Boycott of social affairs, student strike, social disobedience, withdrawal from social institutions. In that category, you got stay at home, total personal non-cooperation, the flight of workers, sanctuary, collective disappearance, protest, immigration, the method of non-cooperation, economic boycotts, actions by consumers. 71. Consumers boycott, non-consumption of boycotted goods, policy of austerity, rent withholding, refusal to rent, national consumers boycott, international consumers boycott, action by workers and producers, workmen's boycott, producers boycott, middlemen, suppliers and handlers boycott, action by owners and management, traders boycott, refusal to let or sell property, lockout, refusal of industrial assistance. 85. Merchants general strike, action by the holders of financial resources, withdrawal of bank deposits, refusal to pay fees, dues, and assessments, refusal to pay debts or interest, severance of funds and credit, revenue refusal, refusal of a government's money, action by governments. 92. Domestic embargo, blacklisting of traders, international sellers embargo, international buyers embargo, international trade embargoes. In the area of strikes, you got symbolic strikes. 97. Protest strike, quickie walkout, agricultural with the peasant strikes and the farm workers strikes. Strikes by special groups, refusal of impressed labor, prisoner strike, craft strike, professional strike, ordinary industrial strikes, and establishment strike, industry strike, sympathetic strikes, restricted strikes. 108. Detailed strike, bumper strike, slowdown strike, working to rule strike, reporting sick or sick ends, strike by resignation, limited strike, selective strike, multi-industry strikes, generalized strike, general strikes, combination of strikes and economic closures. Hartel, 119. 119, economic shutdown. Rejection of authority. 120, withdrawal, withholding of allegiance. Refusal of public support. Literature and speeches advocating resistance. Citizens, non-cooperation with government. 123, boycott of legislative bodies. Boycott of elections. Boycott of government employment and positions. Boycott of government debts, departments, agencies, and other bodies. Withdrawal from government educational institutions. Boycott of government-supported organizations. Refusal of assistance to enforcement agencies. Removal of their own signs and place marks. Refusal to accept appointed officials. Refusal to dissolve existing institutions. Citizens' alternatives to obedience. Reluctant and slow compliance. Non-obedience is in absence of direct supervision. Popular non-obedience. Disguised disobedience. Refusal of an assemblage or meeting to disperse. Sit down. Non-cooperation with conscription and deportation. Hiding, escape, and false identities. 141, civil disobedience of illegitimate laws. Actions by government personnel. 142, selective refusal of assistance by government aides. Blocking of lines of command and information. Stalling and obstruction. General administrative non-cooperation. Judicial non-cooperation. Deliberate inefficiency and selective non-cooperation by enforcement agents. Mutiny. Domestic governmental actions. Quasi-legal evasions and delays. 150, non-cooperation by constituent governmental units. International government action. Changes in diplomatic and other representations. Delay and cancellation of diplomatic events. Withholding of diplomatic recognition. Severance of diplomatic relations. Withdrawal from internal organizations. Refusal of membership in international bodies. Expulsion from international organizations. Coming up to the end here, we've got psychological intervention. Self-exposure to the elements. A fast of moral pleasure, a hunger strike, or a stratigraphic fast. Reverse trial, a nonviolent harassment. Physical intervention. Sit in, stand in, ride in, walk in, mill in, pray in. Nonviolent raids, nonviolent air raids, nonviolent invasion, nonviolent interjection, nonviolent obstruction, nonviolent occupation. Johnny, this means you. Social intervention. 174. Establishing new social patterns. Overloading of facilities. Stall in, speak in, guerrilla theater, alternative social institutions, alternative communication systems. Economic interventions include reverse strike, stay-in strike, nonviolent land seizures, defiance of blockades, politically motivated counterfeiting, precursive purchasing, seizure of assets, dumping, selective patronage, alternative markets, alternative transportation systems, alternative economic institutions, and finally, political interventions, overloading of its administrative systems, disclosing identities of secret agents, seeking imprisonment. 196, civil disobedience of neutral laws. 197, work on without collaboration. And 198, dual sovereignty and parallel governance. Gene Sharp's treatise on 198 forms of nonviolent action is a masterpiece. It's also, what I'm reading from is an outline. There's a much deeper look in the book itself. I would encourage you to read it, and if nothing else, download the PDF at my link that I'll give you in the description here, and dig a little bit deeper into Gene Sharp and how you can get involved. We are in charge here. They work for us. Do not ever forget it. And here at Social Yet Distance, we want to carry any message that is of value. Humans are a value. The world is a value. You are a value. So let's join together and fight the powers that be, because we're not really easily swayed by the same things that they are. We're a different breed, and we learn to love and we love to learn, and we know how to load our toolkits for arming ourselves for battle if that's what's required. We prefer nonviolence. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Come back and check out the rest of our things on YouTube and Spotify. The podcast is on all your podcast networks. You can come to the Buy Me a Coffee page, which will have some merch and keep you informed on what we got going on. And it's kind of serves as a hub for all things social yet distance. Come hang out with us if you need to. It is a membership, so if you need a complimentary entry to the clubhouse, let me know. Send a DM on any of the socials for Social Yet Distance, and I'll be more than happy to include you in on the list. But you got to follow us on the podcast and YouTube first. That's the cost of admission. Fair enough? Great. Have a great weekend, guys. Thanks. Let's put an end to this craziness, shall we?